Hello Internet, my name's Scott and welcome to my channel Living Rad, where we'll mostly be talking about video games. I received something in the post which I'm really excited to own. It is Dragon Ball Z Legend of the Super Saiyan for the Super Nintendo. Now this is a remake of some Famicom games, two Famicom games condensed to one, and I think some of the kind of filler bits of the story cut out and graphics updated for the Super Famicom or the Super Nintendo as I've got it on. Now I used to play this game loads and loads in the early 2000s. I had it on an emulator on the family PC. I didn't have any kind of USB controller or anything like that at the time. All I had was a keyboard and a mouse. So I'd set the keyboard keys to the controller keys, so I was essentially playing, backwards with the arrows for the directions, and I'd set the buttons to letter keys on the PC at the time. I didn't have any other choice, but it was an RPG, so it didn't really matter. It played okay. It wasn't like it was a platformer or something like that. Easy enough to play like that. But I'm so excited to have an actual cartridge of it so I can play it at home now on the Super Nintendo. No keyboard, just proper Super Nintendo buttons on the greatest controller ever made. So I bought the game from a shop on Etsy called Get Your Save, I think, but you can get them from loads of other places, Wish and AliExpress or whatever it's called, and probably eBay, but I got mine from Etsy and I'm really happy with the cartridge itself. It's just a standard Super Nintendo cartridge. You notice that the label isn't the best in the world, but doesn't bother me. It even has the Nintendo print on the back there, which it probably shouldn't. But it's not like it was a game that was actually made, like a high-end game that I could sell for more on eBay, knowing that it was a repro or something like that. It never came out in like the PAL territories or the US. The version I used to play on the emulator was a translated ROM, and it was a pretty badly translated ROM in that the translation itself wasn't bad, but some of the characters had slightly different names, and some of the cards that you used, item cards, had wrong translations and wrong explanations of what the card did on them, so you weren't always 100% sure whether the items were going to do what they said in the description or something completely differently. But you had to just kind of remember what card does what. But I'll show you some of that when we get to the gameplay footage. But it seems that this is the same translation as that ROM I used to play nearly 20 years ago, and I'm sure, I haven't looked, but I'm sure there is an updated translation since then. I would hope there is. And if there is, maybe try that rather than buying a cartridge, because it's cheaper and you probably understand what's actually going on a bit better. But it's a fun game and I'm really excited to show it to you. If you've never seen it before, go and get yourself a copy or download a copy or whatever and have a go, see what you think and get back to me. But let's show you some of the gameplay footage and I'll tell you some of the things I do and don't like about it. So welcome back to Living Rad and enjoy the new video. The game is a simple JRPG, following the Vegeta, Namek and Frieza sagas, more or less. If you've played a JRPG before, you'll know what you're in for. Walking into strangers' houses and talking to them to progress, and fighting enemies over and over again to gain experience points to level up, or grinding as it's become known. Now I'm only a short way through the game, so I can't do a full review as such, but I want to talk about what I've seen so far. Story wise, it's pretty much followed the anime, with a few changes here and there to make it a bit more of an enjoyable game. For instance, Snake Road is just a quick cutscene rather than the epic journey it is in the anime, and Cybermen appear a lot, as they're the main enemies you have to fight in order to level up. The fights are where the main bulk of the gameplay lies. Graphically, I think they look really good, capturing the art style of the anime, with nice cinematics for each attack. It's very satisfying to smash a Cyberman through the side of a mountain or throw him into the floor, or when your character flies in for a sneaky second attack. But the cinematics can make the battles take fairly long. But like I said, I find it all very enjoyable. It's a good idea to save often, as even low level Cybermen have absolutely destroyed me here or there. But save often and you'll have no issues. The battles work by selecting a card which features 3 symbols. The big one in the middle, which denotes which attack you will do, and different characters have different favourites. If you assign their favourite, they will attack all of the enemies on screen. If it's not a favourite, they'll just attack whichever enemy you assign. Now the top left symbol that looks like a Dragon Ball is your attack power. 1 being the lowest, then it runs consecutively to 7 and then to a Z symbol, which is the 8th and the strongest grade. The attack level also denotes who will attack first. The higher the grade, the higher in line you are. And if your attack level matches that of your enemy, it goes on power levels. And the bottom right symbol is your defense. The numbers are shown in Japanese kana, but are fairly self-explanatory. They also run from 1 to 7, followed by a Z. It all sounds fairly tricky, but it's actually pretty simple to get your head around. During battles you can also use items, some of which regain your health and some regain your key points, which is what you use to use your special attacks such as the Kamehameha or the Spirit Bomb. Now unfortunately my copy has quite a few errors in the translation on the items. Both my King Yema or Enma item, as it says here, and my Fortune Teller Barber item both say they raise the defense of a card, but actually the Enma item raises your attack and the Barber raises defense. And also the Enma item has got a picture of Oolong, so it just gets more confusing by the second. That's just the start of the bad translation. There's quite a lot more, but none of it has affected me from enjoying the game at all. A little bit about the cartridge itself. Get Your Save had 2 options when purchasing, one being the regular battery save, like an old school Super Nintendo cartridge, and the other being a chip save, which I went for. Supposedly the saves will last forever, so that sounded like a bonus. I've had no issues saving, which I was worried about initially, as I'd never owned a game that saved via a chip before. But on the other hand, I have lost saves due to dead batteries in the past, so I thought I'd take the gamble, and it looks like it's paid off. The cartridge also fits perfectly into the console, no issues with it being a little bit too big or too small or anything like that. It is just fine. Like I did mention earlier on, the sticker on the front of the cartridge isn't the absolute highest quality, but also it isn't the worst. Very happy all round with the cartridge itself. It's not some hidden gem or anything like that, but what it is in my opinion is the best Dragon Ball Z game ever made. So what is it that Legend of the Super Saiyan has that other Dragon Ball games, even the most recent, just don't and can't achieve? Leveling up your team, making them stronger, just like the anime. Fighting games just can't emulate that mechanic, which is at the core of JRPGs, and also the main plot device of much of Dragon Ball Z. You can't beat a boss? Go and train. Fight
and train some more until you're strong enough to beat him, just like in the show. And it looks so good as well. The cutscenes are great, they tell the story so well, albeit a condensed version of it. And the card system for the battles brings a level of strategy and at the same time makes it completely random. For instance, do you save a Z level special for an upcoming boss battle, or do you use it now and hope you get another powerful card in time?
It might be nostalgia talking, but I think this is a must play for any Dragon Ball Z fan. It's certainly no Final Fantasy VI killer, but it is head and shoulders above all of the rest of the other Dragon Ball Z games or Dragon Ball games or anything else in the series. This is the best, and if they made a modern remake of this, following the same kind of turn-based battle system and the art style and all that kind of stuff, if they'd done a modern version of this, I think it would be like the best game ever. But I'm happy with this for now. Poor translation aside, and some unfair deaths here and there, I can take all that, because it just reminds me of my childhood and seeing Dragon Ball Z for the first time. Those first few episodes I saw on Cartoon Network were then in this, and it's so cool to have a copy of it, to have a real cartridge of it, not just a ROM on the computer.
So what are you waiting for? Go and download Legend of the Super Saiyan right now. And if you really like it, maybe you could buy yourself a copy as well. You deserve it.